49ers Intel, day 9. And I think at this point, you can hear me. And if you don't hear me, well, that sounds like a you problem, not a me problem. Actually, it would be a me problem. I think somebody was giving me a hard time. They said this is why pilots have a checklist. Well, fittingly, I just got off a plane. Thankfully, the checklist worked on that one. And I think the checklist is working here again. 49ers Intel, day 9 from Orange County. 49ers have a day off tomorrow, so I'll be back in the Bay Area Monday, but that doesn't stop me from going over what happened in today's practice, and it was punctuated by this Willie Snead's circus catch. Why don't we take a look at how practice ended for the 49ers today? This was a highlight reel play that we'll replay a couple times. There's Willie Snead on the touchdown. It got his teammates so fired up that they all sprinted in from the sideline to celebrate with him. George Kittle, Ross Dwelly, Deebo Samuel, that's Daz Newsome, 84, all those guys in on the celebration. The throw came from Trey Lance. This is a 25-yard touchdown to end the move the ball session at the end of 49ers practice. They were sluggish today, and you could probably know why. I mean, this team yesterday went through a 90-play practice. Jake Brendel, the center, said that it was like playing a game and then following it up with a fully padded practice. So a little low on the energy from the 49ers today, but they picked up the energy down the stretch. Trey Lance finished strong after a slower start, and then this was the play. I mean, look at this catch. Samuel Womack is in on the coverage. Taylor Hawkins, the safety out of San Diego State, coming over to help. Obviously too late. Womack is turning his head, but he's looking to the left, not to the right. And that's where the ball went, to his right. And Willie Snead reached around with his left arm. I don't think that Willie can see the football right here, or maybe he's just guessing where it is. What a catch. Presses it up against his thigh, brings the other hand in for the reception. 49ers celebrate. Everybody had a good time at the end of practice, even if they didn't have a good time during practice. These are the dog days. That was an example of one of the dog days of August. It's August 5th right now. The 49ers reported to camp at the end of July. They went through this for about a week. The energy level was high all the way until yesterday's peak, 90 plays at practice for the 49ers. I mean, it was a grueling session. I mentioned yesterday that when period 12 ended, that's when most practices do end. The 49ers put 30 minutes up on the scoreboard, and they ran full contact scrimmage for those 30 minutes, right? And let's not call it full contact. It was live. It was contact, but it wasn't fully live contact. They're not bringing people to the ground unless it's an accident, but the bruises are still there. The pads are still popping. It has been an exceptionally physical 49ers camp ever since day 1 of this camp. With pads on, we noticed that the sounds were a little bit different. There was a little extra oomph in some of these hits. I mean, they had a brawl about 5 minutes into the first fully padded team period of this training camp. Gives you an idea of how physical it has been, how much anticipation there's been for this camp. They're all talking shit on social media in the week leading up to camp, offense against defense. Well, now we sit here on day 9 and we're, really just trying to process what happened on day 8 with those 90 plays. And day 9 was about, I think, maybe getting a little bit of a rest. And the 49ers will get a rest on Sunday, but they had to labor their way through day 9 because the dog days are here. And I'm sure the 49ers are really happy that Trey Lance and Willie Snead connected for that touchdown to end day 9, because it sent them into the off day with something good to feel about, right? I mean, there were some bad plays in practice today. Sam Darnold, for example, he had Brandon Ayuk wide open downfield. Like, I'm talking wide open, 10 yards behind the defense. Should have been a relatively easy touchdown. And Sam, one thing I really don't think is usually an issue for him is his arm strength and his throwing ability. I mean, it's been the processing and the interceptions that have been an issue in his time with the Jets and the Panthers. Well, on this particular play, Sam Darnold's arm strength was an issue. I mean, he heaved the ball up there and it just hung up there forever. It's like it came out of his hand wrong. And Brandon Ayuk got to sit there and wait for it. And by the time that the football came down, because it was so terribly underthrown, to Sean Gibson, the safety, who was a good 10 yards behind the play, had a chance to close ground and knock the ball away. So a bad throw by Sam Darnold there at his end of practice to the move the ball session. Trey Lance, though, I thought picked up steam today as practice went along. With Lance, it was, I have my log right here. I always have my log that I take at practice. With Lance, down the stretch run today, he obviously hit Snead for the touchdown, but he hit Ray McCloud before that on a nice intermediate gain. There were some slant throws that Trey Lance made into a tight window late in practice. One to Brandon Ayuk, one to Deebo Samuel, with the 49ers backed up. Kyle Shanahan started to move the ball session with them backed up against their own goal line. The one to Ayuk converted a 3rd and 6, and I thought was a really, really impressive throw that showcased the kind of improvements that Trey Lance has been making. Yesterday, I talked about how accurate all the 49ers quarterbacks were. Today, it obviously took a step down, but they were still generally accurate. It just wasn't as good as it has been over the past 5 days leading up to this practice. But some of the accuracy improvements that Trey Lance has had to make have been on shorter throws. Now, there are the gimmies and then there are the short throws. Those are two different things. I think Trey still needs improvement in the gimme department. Today, he missed Kyle Juszczyk in one of those. But as far as short throws go, the slant action over the middle of the field where it takes a quick release, where it takes some velocity, where it takes maybe some good eye movement to make sure that a linebacker or safety is frozen so a ball can fit in where it's supposed to be. Trey Lance mastered that today. Today, that throw to Ayuk and the earlier throw to Deebo Samuel were both excellent examples of carving up a defense with the short game. And I'm not saying that was a huge issue for Trey Lance in the past, but the release time used to be slower. Because the release was a little bit more elongated, right? What I have constantly talked about this offseason, when especially after I saw Trey Lance working with Jeff Christensen and I saw the abbreviated release, I saw that he was working much more quickly with that release. I said he's got to translate this and carry it over into actual game action. Because if he does that, then the times are going to be quicker. The ball's going to be getting out faster. Some of the windows that were closing earlier for Trey Lance are going to be open, and the completion percentage is going to go up. And a lot of people said, oh, Trey's going to have trouble carrying this over into 11-on-11 action because old habits die hard. And when old habits die hard, well, you revert back to what you did before once the live bullets begin flying. And that's a fair point to take. I think Kyle Shanahan, even in the past, has opined that that's what usually happens to quarterbacks who work on their mechanics over the offseason. But I think that Trey Lance is a special case just because of how inexperienced he was entering this season. 49ers thought he'd be further along when they drafted him, but he's been hurt over the past 2 years. And because there is so little of a base on which Trey Lance has rested his throwing abilities, there just isn't a big sample size. I think that he is more of a moldable clay than a typical third-year quarterback. I think that's really fair to say. And because of that, the work that he did this offseason, I think, has had an easier time sticking during this training camp. And the completion percentage has shot up to the upper 60s from 55%. And one of the reasons why it has is, well, yes, he has been more accurate on his intermediate balls down the field, but he's also been more accurate on some of these quick slants where he's got to get rid of the ball quicker, because if you don't get rid of the ball quickly enough, your eyes are going to get read. Opposing safeties, opposing linebackers are going to read your eyes as a quarterback, and if your release is elongated and if it's slow, they're going to be able to hop in that lane. And the throws to Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk today, late in the move the ball period, I think showed that Trey Lance is getting rid of the ball quicker and fitting it through those tighter windows to make it work. Now, of course, Willie Snead's touchdown catch was impressive, but I think it was more impressive for what Willie Snead did than what Trey Lance did. That being said, I mean, Lance put this ball in a spot where Willie Snead had a chance to make the catch. When you're that well covered, I don't know where else you can put it, right? So Trey did his half of the bargain. Maybe he did his 10% of the bargain. Willie Snead did well over 90% of it here with this circus catch. But Trey, he gets this touchdown because of the preceding plays in the move the ball period, set up a chance to score there at the end. A completion to Ray McCloud right before this set up the chance for Willie Snead to catch that touchdown. I heard the 49ers posted their Sizzle Reel. Mike just sent it to me. So why don't we watch the Sizzle Reel from today's practice together? I have to pop it open on the screen, though. So just give me 1 second. All right, here we go. Thank you to Mike, who always processes this stuff really, really quickly. All right, we have it. There it is. Sizzle Reel. Hold on. We got to give the Sizzle Reel a proper introduction. Sizzle Reel, commence. Here we go. Brandon Allen, QB3 today for the 49ers with Brock Purdy taking the day off. This was Allen deep to Jennings in one-on-ones. That's Juwan Jennings against, I believe, Ambry Thomas. Trey Lance working in one-on-ones to Danny Gray, who's been coming along at training camp for the 49ers. A lot of deep shots here. That one against Deshaun Jameson. That's Ray McCloud against Deshaun Jameson. Sam Darnold now is going to take his shot downfield, and he's going to hit Ronnie Bell against A.J. Parker. Offensive highlights in the one-on-one periods. There's a defensive highlight. Deommodore Lenoir, the hyena, breaks that one up. It was intended for, who was it intended for? I think I lost that. I'm going to rewind this really quickly. First time I'm seeing this sizzle reel. That's Ray McCloud again. So McCloud had a win and he had a loss. Sneak peek at Tim Ryan there, radio analyst in the background. Isaiah Oliver, he's got long arms, big wingspan. That helps in the pass breakup against Juwan Jennings. Now we move on to team drills. There's Charvarius Ward, got his hand in there against George Kittle. Good to see Mooney Ward back in team drills and producing after the groin tightness earlier this week. Ray McCloud with the catch. He was active today. Danny Gray, he's been active all week. And this was a touchdown thrown from Brandon Allen to Willie Snead. So Willie Snead actually scored twice today. Snead trying to take that final spot for receivers on the 53-man roster. Quick little peek at Deebo Samuel. There is the slant that I was just talking about. I'm so glad the 49ers put this in their sizzle reel. Lance to Brandon Ayuk, fits it through a tight window, and then, of course, we end the reel with the Willie Snead circus grab. But why don't we just go back to what I was talking about with Trey Lance and the quick release, because we have this play on film. You could see Lance releasing right now. It's Kerry Hyder in the Deommodore Lenoir in the very foreground, but Kerry Hyder, number 92, the pass rusher, also in the foreground. And Lance zipped this one in. Lenoir is covering Ayuk from the backside, but you could see right here, 59 is the linebacker Curtis Robinson. If Trey Lance doesn't have a quick release, if Trey Lance isn't clean with his eyes, Robinson, is a split second quicker to close off that throwing lane, but he's not able to close it off, and Lance delivers on the short throw. One more time. It's a decent angle to see what I saw from the sideline. Not the best one, but you do see Robinson coming over, and you do see him coming over late. So that's a nice throw from Trey Lance. And there's the first down symbol from Brandon Ayuk. That was 3rd and 6 with the 49ers backed up. So impressive stuff there from the offense later on in practice. We are moving through the dog days, though. The 49ers were tired today. They're coming off the 90-play practice on Friday. Jake Brendel, their center, said that it was like, a padded practice the day after a game because they were so active the prior day. But this is what you have to do to build the callus, right? This is what you have to do to get into football shape. You can lift as many weights and you can do as many lunges and as many wind sprints or marathons or whatever the hell you want over the course of the off season. But if you don't actually play football, if you don't actually get the bruises that are associated with contact in football, you're not going to be ready for week 1. So this is where, the blood, sweat, and the tears happen for the 49ers before the regular season. If they're going to be ready for September 10th at Pittsburgh in the fourth quarter in the warm weather, because, it's probably not going to be all too cool yet back east at that time of the year. If you want to finish that game, you got to put in the work right now. And this 3-day stretch that the 49ers just closed ahead of the day off on Sunday, I think, was a good example of what the 49ers need to make sure that they are ready to go for regular season action. Some highlights from today. Taco Charlton. This guy, 6'6". I talked about it a little bit earlier, but he is so long, and he's lean now, too. He used to play at 270, 275 with other teams. This is his 8th team in the NFL, the 49ers, by the way. Is this going to be the next Chris Kocurek reclamation project? We've seen him do it with Arden Key. We've seen him do it with Charles Omenihu. Taco Charlton was a first-round pick of the Dallas Cowboys way back in 2018. So can Taco Charlton deliver for the 49ers? Well, he stepped off the plane on Taco Tuesday, just 4 or 5 days ago, and he delivered from the very first one-on-one rep. And today he won 2 more one-on-one reps against Leroy Watson, the young tackle. Taco's going to have a chance to move up the pecking order here. And I think the best chance at separation is going to be when the 49ers play the Raiders or practice against them on Thursday and Friday. And we'll see how that 6'6" frame and that 260-pound weight, that leaner, lighter weight that I think has allowed Taco Charlton to develop more explosiveness and really fit with what Chris Kasarik wants to do, because he just likes his defensive linemen to put their hand in the dirt and attack. There's no reading and reacting. I think this is going to fit really well with what Taco Charlton is built to do physically. And that's how they revitalize the careers of defensive linemen. They let them put their hand down in the dirt and attack and really utilize their athleticism, utilize their God-given gifts. And that a guy has God-given gifts when he went number 28 overall in the NFL draft, even if it was several years ago. So that's going to be very, very fascinating. Jason Poe has been taking some reps at center. Matt Barrows actually wrote about this on The Athletic, so be sure to check out his daily report from today. He had the daily report. I had it yesterday. I'm going to have it again on Monday. We kind of operate on a rotation, but everybody likes to talk about Jason Poe, right? Undrafted free agent out of Mercer, first Lenore Ryan, then Mercer, both really tiny schools, tiny FCS program. Jason Poe was, putting out a reel of himself last year before the 49ers signed him, catching passes at fullback because he knows that he's undersized for an offensive lineman. He's only got 31-inch arms, and 31 inches isn't long in NFL circles. You're talking 33, 34 inches for starting offensive linemen. So there's a reason why Jason Poe's an underdog, but he's also ultra athletic, more athletic and faster than almost every other offensive lineman. The question is, can he overcome the lack of size? Because he's shorter and he's got those shorter arms, and it's harder to keep defensive linemen at bay when those arms are shorter. It matters a little bit less at center, because at center, just some of the blocking angles, some of the reach that you have to do is not quite as long as it would be further from where the football is snapped. So tackle, obviously, you want the most length, and then it decreases as you move in towards center. So Jason Poe getting some snaps at center might be his ticket to make this football team. Chris Foerster, the 49ers O-line coach, was talking about that today. Going to be very, very fascinating to see if Poe ends up on the practice squad again, or if the 49ers say, hey, we trust this guy, and he has versatility probably beyond just playing center or just playing guard. You could probably stick him in there at fullback. We talked about that a lot since that's what he played in college. Maybe they do see him and his ability to be a Swiss Army knife in an emergency. I don't think he's going to be the every down fullback to replace Kyle Juszczyk, but in an emergency, maybe that versatility allows Poe to make the roster, or at least buy another ticket to the practice squad where he spent last season. Deebo Samuel is special, and I'll show you why right here. This graphic popped up on the internet today, and it's another one of those XY axis things, but just pay attention to the Y axis here. Yards after the catch per reception. Look where everybody is. These are wide receivers and tight ends in the NFL. And then look where Deebo Samuel is, way above everybody. That's 9 yards after the catch per reception for Deebo Samuel. You have Dallas Goedert from the Eagles. I mean, he's doing well at 8 yards after the catch per reception. He's way ahead of everyone else except for Samuel, and Samuel's a full yard ahead of him. We simply have never seen a receiver like this. I'm not saying that Deebo Samuel is the best receiver of all time, but Deebo Samuel is the most unique receiver of all time when it comes to yards after the catch, period. I mean, since Pro Football Focus started tracking yards after the catch per reception, Deebo Samuel has blown every other contender at any other position out of the water. And this is since like 2003 or 2004. This is that visualized, right? There's Deebo, upper left. I'm circling his dot up there. Should allow you to appreciate where he's at. We could talk about even year Deebo and odd year Deebo. 2019, 2021, Deebo Samuel was awesome. Those are the 2 years where the conditioning was very heavy for him, where he was getting after it, right? Where he made sure to enter the season at a good weight. They ran him to death in 2019. And then in 2021, they were calling him Skinny Deebo at training camp. In 2020 and 2022, Deebo didn't have great years. 2020, he broke his foot, so he couldn't really condition the way that he wanted to. 2022, well, that was the contract drama year. And he himself acknowledged that he did not come into season in shape. So it's now an odd year. It's now 2023, and Deebo Samuel's in shape. He's at 220 pounds. He came in as skinny Deebo again. I think that we should brace ourselves for another massive season for Deebo Samuel if he can stay healthy. One other thing, the energy coming from Christian McCaffrey and Ty-Davis-Price was absolutely something else in the practice field today. Literally, everybody else was sluggish. Everybody else was kind of going through the motions, except for Willie Snead, of course, who made that insane catch. But whenever the 49ers need some energy, pitch left, pitch right to Christian McCaffrey or Ty-Davis-Price, who's really transformed his body, and you can watch that energy really spark. All right, I'm going to answer 2 questions, then I got to get going. We got dinner here in Orange County over in Newport Beach. I think there's a lot of 49ers fans in this part of California. Smash that like button, of course. I think Jordan Mason looks good too. I mentioned Ty-Davis-Price changing his body, leaning out, adding a little bit of muscle, going from around 215, 220 to near 230. They say that Jordan Mason has done the same thing. And a lot of people prematurely were getting on him for fumbles before pads were even on. Since the pads have come on, Jordan Mason's not fumbled a single time. And we already have 5 practices under the belt. Info and updates on the injuries. Well, I'll tell you, Jalen Moore's been walking around the practice field. I think that he's going to be back sooner rather than later. It was only a bone bruise in the knee. Aaron Banks was walking around today, too. He's in the concussion protocol, so I would think that he's going to be back sooner rather than later. And Darrell Luter Jr. was pumping up the crowd. He's on PUP with the bone bruise in his knee, but he was firing up the crowd with the rookie hype machine before practice and dancing. And the knee, to me, he's been walking around without a limp. I think that he is not far from being activated from PUP. Drake Jackson looks good without the pads on. Today, Drake Jackson beat Colton McKivitz in a 1-on-1. Do I think this year's cornerback room is better than in seasons past? Well, if Deshaun Jameson keeps on making a play a day, and he's been making a play a day, if Samuel Womack keeps on covering well, he can't really hold that Willie Snead catch against him. If Darrell Luter shows up and delivers, if Ambry Thomas muscles up like he did against George Kittle yesterday, the quarterback room can be better than the past. My question entering camp was the depth or lack thereof of the cornerback room, but I think that these guys are over camp. It's trending in the right direction for the 49ers. All right, cool stuff. I got to go to dinner out here in Orange County. It's a day off time. Of course, the content is going to keep on flooding in, so be ready for that. But nice little 23-minute show. Normally we do 49 minutes, but we only have 23 minutes in today's show. That's Christian McCaffrey's number. He went the MJ route last year. So went from 22 with Carolina to 23 with the 49ers. So if you like Christian McCaffrey, go ahead and hit that like button, and we'll talk to you all very soon. And if you hit the like button, hit the sub too. Bye now.